Karen Thompson was known in her quiet neighborhood as the woman who cherished peace and tranquility. Every morning, she would start her day with a cup of herbal tea on her porch, enjoying the gentle rustle of leaves and the soft chirping of birds. Her routine was simple but comforting. She would read her favorite mystery novels, tend to her garden, and take evening walks down the serene streets lined with friendly faces. However, Karen had one major pet peeve: loud noises. Whether it was barking dogs or shouting children, she couldn't stand disruptions to her calm environment. The soothing sounds of nature were what she thrived on, and she believed that everyone should respect that atmosphere. So when she first heard the ruckus coming from next door, she was immediately on high alert. At first, it was just a faint strumming of guitars and distant laughter that carried through the air. But soon it grew louder, transforming into an overwhelming cacophony of drums and unsteady vocals that shattered Karen's peaceful bubble. She could hardly concentrate on her books or enjoy her tea without being interrupted by the noise. It felt like a careless invasion of her quiet sanctuary. Determined to reclaim her serenity, Karen decided to take action. She drafted a series of noise complaints to the local authorities, convinced that she was standing up for what every neighbor should value: tranquility amidst chaos. Little did she know that the source of this chaos would turn out to be much more than just an amateur band. As the noise continued from next door, Karen's curiosity began to outweigh her frustration. She decided to take a closer look at the enigmatic man behind the racket. His name was Mike Reynolds, a man who appeared unassuming enough with his worn jeans and t-shirts, often seen carrying equipment in and out of his garage. To Karen, he seemed like any other neighbor, blending in with the suburban backdrop of neatly trimmed lawns and white picket fences. Yet, beneath this ordinary exterior lay an extraordinary talent. Mike was not just a casual music enthusiast, he was a Grammy-winning producer known for working with some of the biggest names in the industry. He had transformed sounds into hits while dedicating countless hours to philanthropic causes through his music. The garage that had become a source of Karen's irritation was filled with high-quality recording equipment and passionate musicians eager to contribute to a charity album intended to help those in need. As Karen overheard snippets of their rehearsals, she began to realize that what she initially dismissed as noise was actually an array of creative energy and collaboration. Musicians were pouring their hearts into every note, while Mike expertly guided them, mixing tracks that could make a difference in the world. Unbeknownst to her at this point, Mike's mission would soon intersect with her own life in surprising ways, challenging her perceptions and assumptions about music, and her neighbors. Despite her newfound understanding of the music coming from Mike's garage, Karen's initial frustrations lingered. Each time she heard the pounding of drums or the wailing of guitars, her irritation bubbled to the surface. The rehearsals seemed to drag on late into the night, disrupting not only her peaceful evenings but also her ability to relax and enjoy her hobbies. With every note that echoed through her walls, she felt her sanctuary slipping away. Determined to take action, Karen found herself drafting complaints to local authorities. She meticulously described how the noise levels were exceeding what she believed was acceptable for their neighborhood. "This is a quiet area," she would remind herself as she filled out form after form, hoping someone would understand her plight. She didn't just want peace, she wanted the community to acknowledge her struggle. The more complaints she filed, the more stubbornly she clung to her conviction that music should be confined to specific times and places. It was as if she viewed the band as an invasion of her personal space, which only fueled her resolve. Friends and family encouraged her choice, suggesting that she was simply standing up for what any good neighbor would want: tranquility in their home. Yet, deep down, Karen wrestled with a growing sense of doubt. Could she really continue to fight against something that brought joy and creativity to others? The conflict between her desire for peace and her nascent appreciation for Mike's work was starting to weigh heavily on her mind. As the days went by, Karen's frustrations and internal conflicts began to intertwine. While she had come to appreciate the talent emanating from Mike's garage, the realization of his true identity was about to hit her like a ton of bricks. One afternoon, while she was scrolling online, she stumbled upon an article that featured Mike prominently. The headline read, "Local music producer creates charity album with rising stars." In that moment, everything clicked into place. The pictures showed Mike in a recording studio, surrounded by famous musicians and beaming with pride. This was the same man she had labeled as just another noisy neighbor. The disconnect between her perception and reality struck her hard. How could she have been so quick to judge someone who was actively using his gifts to help others? This revelation forced Karen to confront her own biases. She recalled conversations with friends who encouraged her complaints about the amateur band, but now those words felt heavy with guilt. Mike wasn't merely distorting her peace, he was channeling his artistic talents for charitable purposes. Karen mulled over what this meant for her own feelings about music and community. Could she still oppose the noise created by someone who was genuinely trying to make a difference? As she reflected on how quickly she had dismissed him, Karen began to wonder if it might be time for a change in her approach, toward both Mike and the vibrant world of music he represented. Just as Karen was wrestling with her thoughts about Mike and the noisy rehearsals, a buzz of excitement rippled through the neighborhood. News had spread like wildfire that a well-known artist, renowned for his powerful voice and heartfelt lyrics, would be coming to record tracks for the charity album. The anticipation was palpable. Neighbors began to gather on their porches, eager to glimpse the music star and witness the magic happening next door. Karen felt a mix of apprehension and curiosity as she observed her neighbors' exhilaration. Children dashed down the street with painted signs reading, "Welcome," while adults exchanged stories about their favorite songs by the artist. For the first time, she found herself feeling slightly left out of this communal joy, standing alone in her yard while everyone else reveled in the excitement of live music. On the day of the recording session, a small crowd formed outside Mike's garage. Karen caught snippets of laughter and friendly chatter among her neighbors as they shared snacks and drinks while waiting for a glimpse of the musician. She hesitated, considering whether to join them or remain withdrawn. In a moment of impulse, Karen decided to seize the opportunity and approached the space where the artist was set to arrive. She wanted to take a photo to document this unique occasion, hoping it could be a way to connect with her neighbors and perhaps rewrite her own narrative about music. When she spotted the artist stepping out of a sleek car, she raised her phone for a picture, but instead met an unexpected refusal that would soon send shockwaves through her community. As the crowd buzzed with excitement, Karen felt her heart race with both anticipation and a longing for recognition. She had watched her neighbors engage with the artist, sharing stories and laughter, while she stood on the sidelines. This was her chance to step into the spotlight, even if just for a moment. Holding her phone tightly, she approached the gathering, determined to capture a photo that would not only validate her presence but also showcase her connection to something much larger than herself. When the moment finally arrived, and the artist emerged from his vehicle, Karen felt a surge of adrenaline. She stepped forward, calling out his name with enthusiasm. "Can I get a quick picture?" she asked, hoping to freeze this moment in time. To her shock, he shook his head and brushed past her without even pausing. The rejection stung more than she expected. Suddenly, faces around her turned away as whispers spread through the crowd. The excitement that had filled the air moments ago dissipated as people turned their attention back to the artist. Karen felt heat rise in her cheeks as she realized she was now in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. A few neighbors even exchanged glances, and Karen could sense laughter at her expense. In that instant, her desire for social media validation collided with an unexpected wave of embarrassment. This wasn't how she envisioned it. Instead of being part of a community experience, she felt more isolated than ever. Little did she know that this moment would soon become fodder for social media discussions that would further complicate her relationship with music and those around her. Karen stood frozen as the artist brushed past her, his refusal echoing in her ears. In that instant, her heart sank deeper than she thought possible. She had envisioned this moment, the perfect snapshot to share with her friends and transform her image from a disgruntled neighbor into an engaged community member, someone connected to the vibrant story surrounding the charity album. Yet now, she felt like nothing more than an outsider. The murmurs in the crowd began to suffocate her confidence. Neighbors who had once empathized with her plight were now exchanging knowing looks and chuckling under their breath. Each giggle felt like a pinprick against her self-esteem, reinforcing the sharp sting of rejection that lodged itself in her chest. What was meant to be a proud moment turned into one of intense vulnerability, amplifying her feelings of isolation. As the recording session continued, Karen wrestled with conflicting emotions. Wasn't music supposed to unite people? Yet here she was, caught in a web of embarrassment and self-doubt. The laughter lingered long after she stepped away from the group, remaining imprinted in her mind. Determined not to let this moment define her, Karen turned back towards her house, though she was deeply affected by how quickly the atmosphere had shifted from celebration to mockery. She knew that stories would spread, and social media would amplify this uncomfortable situation, casting her not as a misunderstood neighbor but instead as Karen, the woman who called music a nuisance. As she walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that perhaps it was time for a reckoning with how she viewed both music and her role within the community. In the wake of her embarrassing encounter, Karen felt an urge to voice her feelings about the music that had been a source of tension in her life. Fueled by a mix of frustration and hurt, she took to social media, where she made a public complaint about the noise, labeling it as a nuisance. She hoped that by expressing her feelings, she could find understanding and support from others who might share her views. However, what she anticipated as a plea for sympathy quickly spiraled into a backlash. The post ignited a firestorm of reactions from both music fans and local residents who loved the vibrant sounds emanating from Mike's garage. To them, Karen's words felt dismissive and out of touch with what they cherished, a community coming together through music for a noble cause. Responses flooded in, ranging from scathing comments to passionate defenses of the band and Mike's efforts. "How can you call this beautiful music a nuisance?" one comment read, while another said, "Maybe if you opened your heart to it, you'd see the good it brings." Each response felt like a jab, amplifying Karen's feelings of isolation. As the discussions continued to unfold online, Karen realized that she had unintentionally positioned herself as the villain in a story that everyone else seemed to embrace. Her relationship with her neighbors and their joy for music became increasingly strained as she grappled with being branded as Karen, the woman who disrespected art and community spirit. This unexpected turn forced her to confront not only her own biases but also how she had inadvertently alienated herself from the very community she longed to connect with. As social media erupted with responses to Karen's post, the reaction took on a life of its own. What had started as her plea for understanding quickly transformed into a spectacle. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers began weighing in, creating a mix of heated debates and light-hearted mocking humor. Memes were quickly crafted, showcasing her as Karen, the woman who deemed music a nuisance, and soon she was trending for all the wrong reasons. Comments flooded in with undeniable vigor. "Who knew art had so many haters?" one user quipped, while another sarcastically suggested she should move to a quieter neighborhood. Fans of Mike's charity album defended his passion vehemently, with many sharing their own experiences of how music had brought them joy and community during hard times. To them, Karen's words felt not just dismissive but deeply hurtful to the cause they rallied around. Caught in the crossfire of public opinion, Karen found herself the target of ridicule rather than sympathy. Each notification ping on her phone felt like another stab to her pride as people dissected her opinions publicly. Friends and acquaintances tried to defend her, but their efforts often fell flat amid the barrage of snarky comments. This backlash left Karen feeling like an outcast. She was grappling not only with her apparent missteps but also with a diminished sense of self in a community that now viewed her through a lens of misunderstanding. The experience forced her to face the reality that her disdain for noise had painted her as someone unable to appreciate the beauty that both music and community could offer. In the aftermath of the social media backlash, Karen took a step back to reflect on her journey and the profound lessons she had learned. It became clear to her that the noise she once perceived as a nuisance was actually the heartbeat of her community, an expression of creativity, passion, and unity. She began to understand that everyone has their own story, and what may seem disruptive to one person could be uplifting for another. With this newfound perspective, Karen started to appreciate music in a different light. She realized how important it was to be open-minded and empathetic towards others' passions. Instead of viewing Mike's band as an invasion of her peace, she began to see it as a collective effort aimed at making a difference through art. This shift in outlook was not just about accepting the noise, it was about embracing the life and energy it brought to her neighborhood. Determined to make amends, Karen approached Mike one evening while the band prepared for another session. She expressed her apologies for her earlier complaints and shared how her views had shifted. To her surprise, Mike welcomed her with open arms, grateful for her honesty. From that day forward, Karen made an effort to support the charity album. She attended rehearsals, contributed ideas, and even helped organize community events around the project. In doing so, she not only rediscovered her connection to music but also forged new friendships within her community. Ultimately, Karen learned that understanding and collaboration can bridge gaps, turning potential conflicts into opportunities for growth and connection.